Hey gang, today we're going to do part 4 of learning In the Midnight Hour, made famous by Wilson Pickett. And today we're going to focus on soloing over the song. It's going to be a lot of fun. Now if you missed parts 1, 2, or 3, no problem, you can still get them. You can click on the links below. One is called The Joy of Guitar, which is my Facebook group. The other is my Teachable school, where you can click and you can get all the parts from there. All right, let's get right down to it. Here's what we're going to cover. First, I want to talk about the approach that we'll take and that I recommend to most people. Number 2, I want to talk just a little bit of theory. Nothing deep here, okay? Number 3, I'll demo a solo. And number 4, I'll break down what I did. Sound good? All right, well, let's get to it. Here's the approach that I'm going to take, and I recommend that you think about taking this approach as well. I'm going to combine 3 sorts of elements into the solo that I'm going to play. Number 1, scales. What scales make sense, or maybe even simpler, what scale makes sense over the song that we're playing, over the chord progression. Number 2, be very mindful of the chords and some key chords if they don't fit. Okay, so think about chord tones and what those chords are. Number 3, and this is probably the most important and least appreciated element, we're going to bring in some melodic ideas into this. Now, big shocker, I'm going to use the stuff that we did on melody in the previous installment, if you will. Okay? Now, you don't have to do that. You can bring in some other melodic elements, and probably should. But bringing in the melody of the song itself is often a great way to hook your audience into something they've already heard before. They can relate to it. Sounds really musical to them. It's not just somebody who's a guitar player who's up there doing his own thing, but rather integrating what's going on into the music. So those are the 3 things we're going to do. All right, let's talk theory now. Just a little bit. There's basically 3 parts to this song. The first part is the predominant part, and it's the I'm gonna wait till the midnight hour when my love comes tumbling down, that part right there. And the chords over that are E to A, with the E being the most predominant and the tonal center of this. So you've got lots of different choices here, but let me just suggest 2 pretty common ones if you're going to think about this. The first one is the E major pentatonic, and in a lot of ways this makes the most sense because the melody is very majory sounding. So if you wanted to stick pretty close to the melody, E major pentatonic is a good choice. The other is E minor pentatonic. Now, I probably wouldn't recommend that as your main thing that you're thinking of, but the E minor pentatonic, because there's so much of a bluesy singing function in this, the E minor pentatonic, kind of works. And you know, we guitarists can get kind of out of hand doing the minor pentatonic all the time. So maybe we want to throw in a minor pentatonic lick at the end or something like that, maybe a bluesy lick at the end to just punctuate things. So that's kind of the recommended approach that I would take on that. On the second part, which is the I'm gonna do all the things I told you, do in the midnight hour, that part, that just goes from B to A. Now, even though all those fit into the scale, I recommend that you be very conscious that you're playing over a B chord and then an A chord instead of just playing, you know, just wailing on either one of those other scales. So what we're going to do, or what I'm going to do, is very deliberately play over those chords. Think about those things. Okay, the last section is basically, it goes back to in the midnight hour. Those last 2 chords are D and B. All right, so again, we have to be very deliberate over that D because it's a chord that's out of key. And while we're at it, we may as well be pretty deliberate over that B as well, because that B is something that really punctuates that ending. So that's the approach that I'm going to take. Major pentatonic primarily over the main section with maybe a minor pentatonic lick thrown in. And then over the B to A, play very much over the chords, and over the D to the B, play very much over the chords. All right? That's the approach. I'm also going to throw in some melody, as you'll see. Okay, let's go over this in a little detail. Now, I improvised this, so I'm not sure I can remember exactly the lines, but I think I can get pretty close and certainly give you the ideas. So let's start out from the start. First line was something like this. That is about as straightforward as it gets. Obviously, I'm stealing that directly from the melody, but I'm embellishing it a little bit with a bend and a pull off and a trail off. That's it. So we learned that in week 3, so you can check out all how to do that in the previous lesson on this song. Okay, then, and you'll notice I'm playing this out of the E major pentatonic position right here from between the 9th and 12th frets. Now, it's the same box as the E minor pentatonic. You just shift it down 3 frets. If you didn't know that, that's a good thing to know. All right, the second thing was I played something like this. So all I'm really trying to do is play the same melody line, but put a little rhythmic difference in it. That's it. I'm just adding a little rhythmic interest into it, but playing the same thing and then embellishing that a little bit at the end. So little country embellishment at the end. Okay, here's where it gets maybe a little bit interesting. So starting out with a melody, really good idea, hooks people in. Now we're going to play some guitaristic stuff. Something like that. We're going to start with a typical major pentatonic run, ending on the E, which is obviously a very strong note, ending on the root. We're going to play a series of double stops, based on the E major pentatonic scale, or E major pentatonic, or E triads, however you want to look at that. And that little line is right out of a E major pentatonic scale as well. It's the old bluegrass run. All right, but we're just permuting that a little bit. Now is where it gets a little bit interesting in the solo. Now is when it goes to the B to the A. Now there's lots of choices that you have here. You know, you could play down here. You play something like that. I didn't do that. I didn't try and play anything real bluesy. I just started out using these 2 triads right here, the B triad and the A triad, which is the same shape, just 2 frets below. Okay, so this is the A triad. There's the A right there. on the 2nd string, or on the B string 10th fret, and the B is on the B string 12th fret, of course. So basically all I'm doing is I'm sliding up to that and playing that chord. I think I threw in a little bluesy line there on that A. Then we do it again. This time I use the B.B. King extension on that triad. All right, and then over the A I simply played, or something like that. All that is playing 6th, starting on the one that has the root here and going up to the next A chord. So here's my A triad right here, and here's another A triad right here, and all I'm doing is moving from one triad to the next by playing 6th. That's it. I'm not doing anything other than that. Okay, now we're back to the before we go to the D to the B. Okay, so this time over this E to A, instead of playing the E major pentatonic, I'm going to throw in some bluesy sounding lines. So here's what I do. I play a blues double stop, something like this. This is something like what I play here. Something like that. So I play a little bluesy double stop right here on the first 2 strings. Everybody uses that one. Angus Young uses it all the time. Heck, probably Mighty Joe Young uses it. Okay, now I just play a connecting thing here. When I get up to here, which is my E minor pentatonic, I just play basically the Chuck Berry lick. And then walk it down. And that's all I do for that E to the A. Finally, we've got a D to the B. I'm just going to basically play the chords on that one. So here's my D triad right here that I'm playing. The D is right here on the B string 15th. It's the same shape that we used before for the B triad and the A triad. So and I basically did the same thing for the B that I did for the A before. Starting at this B chord, I'm going to travel up to this B chord right here, and I'm just going to play 6th. And just end with a little E double stop. First 2 strings, 12th fret. Okay, gang, well that's the end of this 4-part series on learning in the midnight hour. Hope you enjoyed this. Remember, if you haven't seen the other 3 parts, you can get them by clicking on the link below. Either of the 2 links. One is for Joy of Guitar, and the other is for my school at Teachable.com. All right, so check out either of those. And if you like this video, why don't you click the like button? If you haven't yet subscribed, do so. And we will see you on down the road.